talk video to share with you guys. And today we're going to be talking about The Accidental Suffragist by Galia Gichon. I hope I am saying that name right. Anyway, this book was sent to me to read by the publisher, I believe. And you know, I was just asked to read it, and once I did, I loved it so much I wanted to share my thoughts with you guys. This is a slim volume. It's just under 250 pages, so it was a quick read once I was finally able to sit down and read it. It didn't take long to get through, and it was just a really nice read. Now, as the name implies, this book takes place during the suffragist movement in the early 1900s. I think it begins around 1911 in the United States, in New York. And that, of course, is the time when women begin to really fight for the right to vote. It's incredibly, incredibly wild to think that, you know, we're only 100 years into women being able to vote. That blows my mind every time I think of it, because it was August 1920 when that right was finally passed. This book, I'm not going to give any spoilers for this book. I just want to keep it nice and simple so that you guys can go and seek this out if you would also like to read it. As I was reading it, I kept thinking to myself that I knew there were a bunch of you that watch this channel that I think would really like this story. So the book is about a family. It centers around a family, and in particular, the mother of this family. Her name is Helen. So when the book begins in 1911, she has 4 children and her husband. His name is Albert, and she's working in a factory. And soon after the book begins, her eldest daughter, Abigail, she also wants to be able to contribute to the family. You know, times are tough, and Abigail feels like she's old enough, she should be able to help, and she wants to take a job working in one of the factories as well. And this kind of sets us up, because soon after Abigail begins working, the family is struck by a indescribable tragedy, just the worst thing a parent could imagine. And because of that, Helen is just at the right place in her life at the right time to really be scooped up into this movement. You know, it's at a time where things are starting to change, and because of the tragedy that befalls their family, she is moved more than ever to try to make a difference. And she feels like if she gets involved with this movement, she can help sort of right the wrongs that happened in the tragedy, and also work to build a better world for her daughter, or her daughters. Just two other daughters aside from Abigail. And that's really the motivation for her. You know, at first she's a little scared and unsure, as you would be. You know, when big changes are happening, it's scary. And at that time, it was very taboo to be involved with groups like this. And she has a hard time convincing her husband to let her participate, which, you know, in the year 2021, hearing the term "let her participate" sounds insane, because, you know, but back then it was different. And you know, she needed her husband's permission, because without it, he could tell her, you know what, fine, go do it, but you're not coming back in this house. And so it was interesting to see Albert, her husband, as a character, because I feel like more so than probably some of the men at that time, there was a part of him that loved it for her, that wanted her to be fulfilled by a cause, that enjoyed watching her go out and stand up for what she believes in. But at the same time, it just wasn't done. At the same time, he's still a traditional man, and he still has to go to work at the factory, because he works at one as well, and hear what the other men have to say. So I feel like for Albert, it was less about his own personal feelings and more about how they would be viewed as a family, and how she would be viewed, and how he would be viewed as a husband for letting his wife go out and do these things. And it was just very interesting getting to watch her go out and do these things, because I feel like she was just so good at it. Eventually she gets hired and she gets paid more than double what she would have made in the factories. And it's just, I really enjoyed watching her kind of come into herself, because of course, as people, and especially as women, we all need those things that bring us fulfillment. You know, we need that in our lives, especially as wives and mothers. We need those other things. You know, you need a sense of self outside of wife and mother. And I liked watching Helen bloom into, you know, how it goes. And there are so many other things touched on. Even a birth control inside of a marriage is touched on. You know, when you've got enough mouths to feed, you don't want to get pregnant anymore. You know, one of the women teaches Helen about birth control, and she has to bring that up to her husband. And I thought that was interesting. I liked seeing that, because I never really thought of that before, like when birth control was becoming more popular, and how literally people would have to have those conversations because it was something so new. And I really liked how that was just touched on and talked about. I loved watching the women go to the marches outside, both inside New York and outside of New York. They go to Washington and they march. And anyway, I don't want to say any more, because it's a nice story. I liked seeing this, you know, and of course this is something that's written about often. But I liked the straightforwardness of this book. I thought it was really well written, and I just liked watching it all unfold and play out. And it's such an important time in our history, and it's something that should be written about, you know, as often as possible, so we can remember that just, you know, just over 100 years ago, times were very different for women, and how lucky we are to be able to look back and see how far we've come already. And it's great. I enjoyed this book very much. Thank you again to, you know, thank you for sending this book to me. I really enjoyed it. And I'll definitely be keeping an eye out for other books in the future from this author. I thought she was great. So I hope you guys are having a good weekend, and I will see you again real soon. Bye guys.